I've done that backup thing, and I thought in stretches he played very well. And defensively, he never gets enough credit because he is one of the better perimeter defenders in the league.
They call him Dennis the Menace.
Dennis the Menace. LeBron, I think, nicknamed him that, right? He finished 29th in the league in defensive win shares, which is very good. If you're top 30 in the league, and to me, there were nights when he was dominating on defense because he's got Patrick Beverly in him, but he's quicker than Pat Beverly, right? And on offense, he can be lightning quick, like maybe as quick as anybody in the league. So that's what he's got going for him. At what do you give him? Is he
six foot tall,
6 feet, 6'1", maybe? Okay.
6 feet, 6'1",
maybe just 6 feet. So the point was, when you don't pay respect to LeBron, all of a sudden there starts to be a little bit of friction between the two of you. Now you're on your own, right? He's not going to fight for you. He's not going to defend you. But they say, well, we still love you, and we're going to offer you this much money. And he's saying, no, I'm going to bet on myself, because he's thinking they got a chance to go back-to-back and go win another championship, right?
Right.
You told me if LeBron and AD stay completely 100% healthy, you believe that team would have won the championship. Well, that's called betting on yourself, because even if you go along for the proverbial ride on the championship, would that not have made his star power, his value much higher on the open market?
Probably.
But instead, look, LeBron obviously is still the face of this league. If you fail with LeBron James, for whatever reason, if you are the reason, a lot of people thought he was the reason this team didn't make it despite the injuries, then the league is going to shun you. The league's going to say, hey, if you can't work with that guy, you can't work with us.
Skip, name the guy that LeBron didn't get paid. Matthew Dellavedova got 4 years, $32 million. Mozgov got $16 million a year. But JR, Tristan, Sean.
But they were all seen as working with LeBron. Like they fit with LeBron, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Schroeder was seen as not fitting in with LeBron, correct? And it just killed him on the open market.
Chris, what you said earlier, that going to Boston, realizing that he turned down $84 million and now he's playing for 5.9, trying to show. I felt that hurt him, because I felt that a large part of last season was about him trying to prove and get a contract. So he wasn't playing to try to win ball games. I'm going to try to get a contract. And if I win in the process of that, oh, be it. But I need to show that I'm a $100 million man. Bruh, trust me, if you blow $84 million, you'll blow $100 million. So I don't really know what you can do with $84 million that you can.
I agree. And from the day he entered, I've loved his swag.
Yeah.
Right. And then him being from Germany, you know, it's like, wow, this dude, Germany, and he got this kind of swag. I mean, I remember watching him in Summer League and liking that.
Yep.
But it's an imbalance. He wasn't able to balance it because he, like you said, Skip, he went to the Lakers with too much swag.
Yeah.
You can have your swag, but you have to understand LeBron is the man. And no matter how good you are, it's no shame to defer to LeBron James.
Thank you.
And so had he done that and fit in, he would have got his money, fit in, and been in a much better situation. And now, look, Tatum and Jalen don't want a point guard that's going to be out there necessarily getting 20 points a night. The offense is going to run through those two.
Hold on.
It's going to run through those two.
Kemba. They try to make it work with Kemba. Now, Kemba has some knee issues, but this is they're like, we going to hang our hat on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So if you think you're going to go in there and get 15, 16 shots a night and take from them, they're going to get you right on pop out of there.
Well, we'll see, because remember, he's still only 27 years of age, so he's going to bet on himself one small year at 5.9 so he can hit the market again. I still think he's a very good basketball player.
So you think he'll get a max contract?
A max?
A max contract, Nick.
No.
Not max.
No, but he might get what you would consider a bag.
Okay. Yeah, well, he's going to need to get, if he get,
honestly.
But if he plays like Reggie Jackson, if he played like Reggie Jackson in the playoffs, maybe we own to something, Chris. Maybe, because Reggie Jackson balled out. Reggie Jackson was on a vet min contract last year. He ended up getting $11 million a year. Well, if Dennis Schroeder would have done that, Dennis Schroeder was awful in the playoffs.
He was. I agree.
Right. He may have to take another short-term deal next year. Because, again, is he going to have the opportunity to show that much? I mean, he'll show something. But we know Boston even if he goes there, fits in, plays really well, how far are they going? There's 3 other teams we can all name.
They clash for the Universal Championship. The head of the table, Roman Reigns, comes face-to-face with John Cena. Plus, how far will the mind games go with Seth Rollins and Edge? The summer of Cena continues. An all-new Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Fox.
Well, George Karl has used every opportunity to emphasize how frustrating it was to coach Carmelo Anthony, taking several jabs throughout the years. And this week was, well, no different when he responded to a tweet quoting Melo's championship aspirations, keeping him up at night, saying, quote, "And it kept our coaching staff up at night a decade ago when we were stressing the importance of team play and defense." It's not going to stop here. Shannon, what did you make of the shots that George Karl took at Carmelo?
If it was unnecessary, George, let it go. I understand it didn't end, Carmelo forced his way out of Denver.
Yep.
And basically ended George Karl's career in Denver.
He did.
Because he was a superstar and he went to the Knicks. And maybe that rubbed George the wrong way. We know Carmelo was never the greatest defensive player. Didn't focus a whole lot on that side of the ball. But now is not the time. That happened so long ago, George, and you still harboring that. And now I see why Boogie Cousins keep, every time you mention somebody mentioned Boogie Cousins' name, he put the little emoji snake in there. Because you keep stuff going, bro. Let this go. Y'all grown. He's moved on. You've moved on. There was no need for you to interject into this. Where Carmelo is, he's at a different place in his life. And he says, you know what? I understand. It's hard to get a guy that's trying to make a name for himself, Skip, to see, because Carmelo is a bona fide scorer. And to try to get him to be something, to be an overall player, this is what I want to do. We'll focus on that. He was young. And now he realizes it takes more than just offense to win a championship. It takes sacrifice.
Yep.
And I'm not so sure that young guys understand the sacrifice that it takes to win a championship. But as they get older and the opportunities start to draw up, they start to understand these are some of the things I'm going to have to do. But Skip, I thought this was very unnecessary. What? Very unnecessary. He didn't need to do this.
Okay, so I know George Karl pretty well. Spent a lot of time around him in our days at ESPN. I knew him before ESPN when he was a head coach for many years. And as you know, he played for the team you grew up loving, North Carolina. He played for the great Dean Smith. So he learned to play basketball the right way. As Larry Brown did, the right way, playing for Dean Smith. So Carmelo drove him crazy because he saw so much in Carmelo that wasn't broad enough. He had so many other talents that he couldn't exploit because Carmelo focused on one thing and one thing only, and it was scoring the basketball, and he could score it. So he played 8 seasons in Denver. Were you there some of those years? Yeah, you were. Okay, so Carmelo averaged 25 points a game over 8 seasons. Pretty great.
Pretty good.
6 rebounds and only 3 assists. The first thing George told me about Carmelo that he said he often told Carmelo, you could average 10 assists a night if you so chose. You would have to focus on that side of the offense.
He might not average 25 points in 10.
He might not, but knowing Carmelo, he would have a chance. The other thing was 6 rebounds a game. Not bad, but George said, with that body that you have and the natural strength you have, you could average 10 a game if you would focus on that part of that aspect of offense, And then you brought up the defense. It was just an afterthought to Carmelo. He just wasn't interested at all at that end of the floor, So that drove George and the coaching staff nuts. I agree with you. It's so long ago that it's still haunting George, but George was responding to Carmelo saying it's keeping him up at night that he doesn't have a ring. Well, how close did they come? That one year, they got to Kobe's Lakers in the conference finals. And what happened in that year? And you might remember that team. That team had Kenyon and Chauncey.
They took a game from the Lakers.
Well, they went all the way to Game 6. You know, they got closed out in Game 6 at home. By the way, Denver had Dante Jones, and they had J.R. Smith and Birdman coming off the bench. So and Nene is there. So it's a pretty good basketball team, right? So it's Game 6 is in Denver, and it becomes the closeout game because they got blown out at home. So what happened in that game? Carmelo scored 25 points, but he had 2 rebounds and 2 assists. I'm sure that just drove George crazy. And he shot 6 of 17 from the floor. He got to the free throw line, made 12 of 15. But Kobe scored 35 in that game with 6 rebounds and 10 assists and took the game over. from Carmelo in Carmelo's house. And they just romped and won and went on and wiped out Orlando in 5 games in the finals. When everybody thought it was going to be, obviously, LeBron versus Kobe in the finals.
But Skip, I mean, if you think about it, look, the Spurs. The Spurs was in their heyday. They wouldn't get past the Spurs.
No.
And then once they got Powell, they wouldn't get past the Lakers. But they make it seem like, well, if Carmelo would have done this, y'all wouldn't get past him, Duncan.
Yeah, I got it. There's truth to what George is saying about Carmelo, but it's old, too old truth, right?
We've all been around people. I played with guys, and I told them, do you realize how special you could be if you did this, this, and this?
Precisely.
They don't realize it. They get older. They're like, man, you know what? You were right.
And
Clinton
Porter. Help anyone to say that stuff about him now as
That's
he's trying to continue. Guys, the NFL announced some changes for this upcoming season.
Man, they always got some changes.
Hey, I'll share the latest next.
No mercy.